I'd like to thank the organizers of the Nigerian Entertainment Conference for deeming this topic an important one to include in the lineup of discussions. I'd of course like to thank all our panelists for making it here. And I'm sure that corporate gratitude of the organizers is in order to the lead speaker or keynote speaker for the session as well, in person of Omotola, Jalade, Ekeinde. Thank you. I would want to just start with from where Omotola started, and that's really what your understanding of social responsibility is about. I started and currently run a sustainability and CSR consulting firm. So what I would try to do in the course of this session is to give a background somewhere along the line, but also try as much as possible and drop the formal and international tenets of social responsibility and bring it home and, of course, relate it to the industry. But I'd like to hear from you, the two panelists, that is. I'm sure that we're pretty much clear with our lead speaker's position on a number of things. So I'd like to hear from both of you briefly, by way of introduction, what your thoughts are on social responsibility, especially in the line of work that you do or your current engagement.
Good afternoon. My name is Yemi. I work for Enough is Enough Nigeria. In terms of the work that we do, I think by the nature of Enough is Enough's work, it's really just about citizens taking responsibility. In Nigeria, in our governance space, there's a lot of focus on government as the other. They do this, they do that, them. But the reality is you can't have government without people. They govern people, they're elected by people, they're meant to serve people. So if you abdicate your responsibility and saying them, you've basically sort of abdicated the space of how your life gets organized to other people. So by the nature of our work, the work is simply how do we get citizens to be more concerned and more engaged about their lives. The fact that there's a bad road affects how long it takes you to get to work, affects how much you spend on your car. The fact that you don't have light affects how much money you have at the end of the month because you spend a lot of it on diesel or fuel or whatever it might be. So it's intertwined. You can't say them, either by not voting or either by voting and then watching and not saying anything. At the end of the day, it affects your quality of life. And a lot of times we don't connect the dots. We sort of separate governance and my life, but it is intertwined. The kind of schools your children can go to or those who choose to send their children abroad, it's a function of governance. It's a function of not paying attention. The fact that we talk about 20 billion missing, this missing, that missing, is a function of governance. And it happens because a lot of us don't pay attention, a lot of us don't care. Impunity only happens in spaces where there are no penalties. So if I know that I can steal or do whatever it is I want to do, and when I walk in here, everybody stands up, says, Your Excellency, Your Honor, we hail, we ask you, when we end up asking you for money and asking you for favors, what's the incentive for me to do any better? Now, we sometimes place a lot of moral responsibility on people, assuming that people should know better. But the very truth is, by human nature, I mean, if for those who are Christians, the Bible does say that the heart of man is desperately wicked. So fundamentally, by human nature, we are not wired, in a sense, almost not to be good. So if I can get away with being bad, not necessarily that, I mean, some people are genuinely good, which is great. But for the most part, people can get away with doing things that there's no penalty for. We will do them. So it's not that there's any different DNA for anybody who does any better. Some are wired either by personal conviction. And that's also, I mean, just to round up, that's usually also what we miss a lot in people who are in positions of leadership, not just government, also private. If you don't have a personal conviction of who you are and what you will and will not do, whatever position you find yourself will basically just show that up. So yeah, so in summary, by definition, it's EIE is set up to actually get citizens to care, because yeah.
Wow. All right. My name is Sam Onyemelukwe, and I work with Trace TV. So I barely know what to say to follow that up, but I will speak about my perception of CSR, corporate social responsibility. You know, I think that you know, the dictionary definition, if I'm not too far off the mark, right, is essentially a responsibility of an organization to give back to its stakeholder base, right? You know, that can be in direct in terms of cash, building hospitals, or you know, helping kids, or whatever the case might be. But I think within the entertainment industry, I think that there's a different angle to it, which is a normal angle to CSR, but I think there's a different requirement on us in the industry. And I think a lot of it actually centers around simply being truthful about what the industry is, and about what our roles in the industry are, and also what the reality of being in the industry is. You know, I often focus on the fact that you know, I joked when I was in the other room right now that I've taken my GSM number off of my card, right? Because when I meet people, a lot of upcoming artists, a lot of them are great artists, but I can't listen and watch every video that's out there myself, right? And a lot of artists, you know, have struggled to record something or have filmed a video and think that once that video is done, that the next step is being a star, right? The next step is being a celebrity, superstar, champagne, Bentleys, or whatever. Omotola, is it true? Eh? So I think that there's a responsibility on our parts to you know, take the excitement that exists around our businesses, around entertainment, around Nollywood, around music, around fashion, and educate those that are coming up behind us. And that, again, it can still be in the form of cash. It can still be in the form of you know, assisting, you know, enabling, and so on. But I think that the core of it is around educating what the realities are, that it takes a lot of hard work, that you need to prepare yourself, because these fundamentals will lay a better foundation for our own industry. It will enable us to go further. It will enable us to compete and you know, claim our space as it rightfully should.
Please clap now. When it was music, everybody was very excited. I'm sure people were very excited when it's Nollywood. But I've noticed that we really do not like to talk about our lives. We are very, very interested in talking about things that, you know, that's why even when you go on blogs, you see that anything that has to do with sensationalism, there's so many comments. You know, people are very, very willing to comment. People are very willing to talk about these things. But then when it has to do with things that has to do with our lives, you know, the reasons why we exist, you know, are kind of like always bored. But I believe that the most intelligent people are in this room right now. They're the ones that stayed back to listen to this session. Hello? So let's make it happen. All right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was told we have 30 minutes, and I know about at least 12 minutes gone. I just want to react to some of the comments and then ask the next set of questions. Our understanding of social responsibility, taking away the corporate social responsibility is more of the consciousness of an organization in managing internal and external consequences in ways that impact positively on all stakeholders. And I'm making the emphasis on internal and external because most times when we talk about social responsibility, we talk a lot about external. And even that has been reflected in some of the comments that I have heard this afternoon. So I want to, by that virtue, now go into my next set of questions. And just before then, I would say, when we say internal consequences or internal stakeholders, it starts from the way an organization is set up in the first place. So you see, when it comes to issues of CSR, we sort of advocate for some sort of standard or regulation. Organizations cannot wake up in the morning without even asking the people in the community what they would like, whether they want a school or they want a borehole, and they fix a borehole. Or they take 10 cartons of a noodle brand to an orphanage and then pay 150,000 naira for the media or PR spree to announce it. So I would want us to also think about social responsibility from that angle. And so first, throwing it back to you who work in this sector, my question would be, and even in the non-profit sector, before you advocate for social responsibility externally, what are you doing internally? How many creative businesses are properly structured? So when you talk social responsibility, there are 7 pillars. You talk about organizational governance, you talk about human rights, which you rightly mentioned, you talk about labor, which you rightly mentioned, you talk about fair operating practices, and then you talk about the environment. And then the last aspect of it is community engagement. But unfortunately, everybody ignores everything else and focuses on community engagement. So what happens to the big telecoms company who claims to be investing so and so billion when they're actually taking 100 times or 200 times that amount out of the economy? What happens to the organization that spends just a little but spends much more to announce what they're doing? And to bring it home to your industries, how many entertainment practitioners and so-called celebrities have bothered to put in the requisite structure that there should exist within their organizations? So yes, there is so much money to be made, there's so much impact that can be done, but the question I'd like to ask, starting from EI, is to say, for example, when you advocate for civic responsibility or citizenship responsibility, which is pretty much, to me, as the same thing as social responsibility, is how much of the organizations within the sector, for example, the non-profit sector that you work with, or even the sector that you interface most with, from what I heard you say in terms of governance, how much of that internal consequence do they seek to manage? So it's one thing for us to say we should care. Oh, by all means we should care, but before young people, for example, know that they need to go and vote, do they even understand what governance is about? So in your thoughts, how do you balance both the internal and the external, and where do you think that the creative industry can start from?
Okay. If I understand you correctly, the internal will be how, so if I take EIE, for example. Okay, what they under. Oh, okay, I see. All right, stuff like that. Okay. I think part of why I think IN invited me to be on the panel is because celebrities have played a big role in EI's journey so far. So EIE started with a protest in 2010. Didn't start as a formal organization, started because we were protesting and then evolved into a formal organization. And part of the leading faces at the protest were celebrities like Omotola, Omaumi, and a few others who, Banky, Timmy, have been part of it from the very beginning. And the issue then becomes for us in engaging with celebrities, what are the things that they are passionate about? And that for us has been a journey over the last 4 years, understanding what issues are of interest to celebrities, how do they manage their brands, so that it's not that you do, and it also becomes a bit difficult for them, because once people see that someone is vocal, then they'll tend to call on you for everything. So if it's rape, come and speak. Domestic violence, come and speak. Governance, come and speak. Malaria rights, come and speak. Something else, come and speak. But it's very challenging because very few, to your point, very few celebrities have very clear issues that, yes, you can be concerned about everything, but you wouldn't necessarily lend your voice nor your face to everything. And then also when you're contributing, what is it that I'm willing to give? Am I giving my time? Am I giving my voice to attend interviews, to attend events? Am I speaking for free? Am I singing for free? So I think those are the things that we've come, that's been a bit of our challenge over the 4 years in dealing with celebrities. What exactly are your particular areas of concern? And in those areas of concern, what is it that you're willing to give? And it's an ongoing journey. We keep having the conversation. So we don't bother you about the same things or bother you about different things. We're quite clear about the things that we are passionate about. So as an organization, yes. Yes, we do pay taxes on, we don't pay corporate taxes, but we do pay staff taxes. So you're right, it is an important part. And I think the general conversation around corporate social responsibility is usually pillared around what they call the three bottom line, or triple bottom line rather. So profits, people, and environment. Now in EI's context, profits are not really relevant because we don't make money. People obviously are quite important because that's really the essence of why we're there. And then environment a bit to a degree. We don't advocate on environmental rights, and the things that we do don't impinge on the environment. So not a big factor of the work that we do. So definitely it does, by nature, it is a big factor of what we do.
Just a follow-up question before I move to Omotola, is to ask, in engaging celebrities, for example, how much of work do you do bringing them to speed with the issues? Or is it And is it a case of you're leveraging off on their personal brands alone? How much of bringing them to speed do you do to understand that they really understand the issues before they go out there to advocate for them?
Quite a bit. I mean, I think it's good Omotola is on the panel, because I think over the years she's one person who, if she asks a ton of questions. I mean, her and Debola are forever, because Debola is usually the one that would call and say, we need her to do, please, we'd like you to do this. And she will grill you. What is it about? Who is involved? Is anybody getting paid? Is money involved? She wants to know exactly, start to finish, who are the players? How does she fit in? How does it affect her brand? What exactly we're asking her to do and what that means. So of all the people that we do in work with, she's actually one person that takes her personal brand very seriously. Not just because it is a brand that's of value, but also because she does things that comes with a personal conviction. So when she comes out to speak, you know that she's speaking because she understands, not only understands the issues, but also believes in what she's talking about. So yes, there is a bit of that. Some are harder than others. And I think, I mean, for someone, for example, like banking, when it comes to stuff with EIE, just because he understands what it is that we're trying to do, he doesn't ask as many questions, but because there's a foundation to work on. So it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We really would like you to do it. He'll ask a few questions just to make sure it's what he thinks it is, and then we'll go on. So it is very important. And there are occasions where it hasn't quite worked out because of maybe some personal issues. So, and I mean, Omotola also alluded to that. So there's someone that's well-known, and you want them to speak on something, but there's also a personal relationship they have against the issue that does not make it possible. So those are kind of things that you also have to manage and needs to be clear on both sides.
Thank you very much. Can we give her a round of applause? I'd like to ask Omotola. Great, a lot of background obviously has been laid with the work that you do with EIE, but I'll speak now to your foundation because I know that you've run this foundation for a number of years. And I want to ask, what are your thoughts about the manner in which celebrities give back? And I don't want to put you on the spot, so you don't have to give an assessment back or forth, but you would agree that there's a trend where people become socially responsible just during their birthdays. So they only go to the orphanages when it's their birthdays, they start a foundation that raises money once a year, and then they go quiet. And what we would say to such people is, you're a celebrity, you don't have to start a foundation, because as EIE would tell you, running a non-profit in Nigeria is not bean cake. So what are your thoughts about that in running, if maybe benefit of hindsight, if you had an opportunity to start, would you have started OEF, or would you rather lend your personal resources to another existing non-profit? And what has been your experience running that, or getting involved with your work day to day with the foundation?
Okay, thank you. I'll answer the difference. If I forget anyone, please remind me. I'll start with with OYEP that you were talking about, my own foundation. Knowing what I know now, if I would have still started OYEP, or if I would have just lended my my brand to other NGOs, I would always have had OYEP. Because OYEP, if a lot of people remember or have been with us from time, I've always stated that OYEP was not supposed to be an NGO. I started OYEP as a movement, you see, and it was out of anger, you know, for the fact that a lot of young people, if you remember around 2004, 2005, it was at the peak of a time when Nigerian youths were just castigated for nothing. I mean, I had lots of young people who were calling me from prisons, and young boys would just be nabbed on the streets, you know, because they had their dungarees, or they would just grab them and take them straight to the cell and lock them up there for like 2 weeks. And so a lot of people were reaching out to me and saying, look, I'm here. They wouldn't even allow my parents, you know, come see me, no one to call. So it was all these reports we were getting that actually made us to start OYEP. So we didn't start OYEP as an NGO. Where we now started OYEP and we started our activities and they started to grow, and a lot of people saw how serious we were. And we have people like Professor Patutomi and Abike Dabiri and so many other people as our foundation members, and they saw what we're doing. So the government called us and asked exactly what we were doing and if we were registered. and they said we needed to be registered, and we couldn't be registered as a movement because they thought we were going to be military or something, militants, So they said we had to be under the toga of the NGO. So it was a natural thing for me. That's just answer that. Now coming to the celebrities, I'll just permit me to go back to the Bible. At a point, in Jesus Christ's ministry, some men came and met Jesus Christ and said, there's some men on the cornerstone who are preaching, in your name. And what was Jesus Christ's answer to them? He said, if they're not against us, they are for us, right? That is the way I'm going to answer that. I always tell people, I say, it doesn't really matter why a celebrity is doing something. I mean, it matters, but then what would it cost you really if it doesn't matter? You know what I mean? So as far as I'm concerned, if a celebrity only wants to do social good when it's their birthdays, it's okay. It would be better than if they didn't do anyone at all. Because you really do need to understand that not every celebrity would really be interested in giving back in that way. What I did not say in my speech, because I was trying to compress it because of all the time, so I skipped a lot of stuff, so that's why I kept pausing, because I kept looking at the things I didn't need to really. But one of the things I wrote down that I didn't say in that speech is that there are so many ways to actually be socially responsible. There are so many other ways to give back. For example, I'll go to something very, very, almost something that we all overlook. On Twitter, for example, you see a lot of people who actually come. I know that in this country we are very angry about people who talk, and do nothing. But the talkers are actually part of our fighters. Please leave them and let them talk. Because the truth of the matter is when you quiet their voices, all right, then we would not even have any voices at all. There are different kinds of fighters in life. There are some who would actually go to the front of the battlefield. There are some who will stay behind and energize those in the battlefield by talking. There are some who will cook meals and take to those people who are fighting. There are some who will be praying. There are some who all they will do is, you will never see them, but maybe they're in positions in the country, and they are speaking to the people that you are fighting in the battle. When I started to work with Amnesty International, then I understood these different facets of social responsibility and fight. Amnesty International will not necessarily come all the time to do, public fights and what do we call it now? Protests. But there are so many things that are done in the background. There are so many things that are done on the level of advocacy, with presidents sitting on the team. So there are different ways to fight. My point is this, and my message to all Nigerians concerning celebrities is that every celebrity in the world has the first responsibility. It is not a privilege. I'm sorry, it's not a, somebody should give me the word. It's not something you might, that's the right word. There's an obligation. It's a duty. It's not like, should I not? It is your obligation. Don't tell me you're not a role model. You are. If you don't want to, then get out of the kitchen. All right? It is your obligation. It's your duty. It's your right. It's your job, first and foremost, to represent the people who have entrusted their goodwill in you. So however you choose to do it, it's fine. No, that's not. The question was, does it also involve celebrities not being, vices, not being troublesome, not getting into trouble? No, it does not include that. I'm sorry. That is not your social responsibility to the society. That is your content of character. All right? So I might be a fraudster, but then I can also use my experiences when I am nabbed and I stay in prison. When I come out, I can also use that to tell people how prison was. But I'm saying there are different layers to how you can actually help the society. But then you are a light, because at the end of the day, you are supposed to shine right back on the people.
I have to ask him the last question before we go.
Emilia.
Yes, last question. I'm also looking at my time. Last question. And it's to Sam, and I'm glad I was looking out for the custom boss, so I'm glad you're here, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that, I read up that a while back that there was a thinking or already something put in place to sort of ensure that there's a collective fund or collective opportunity for people in the industry to leverage off when they need help, when they need support, as some sort of way to give back, as it were. Okay, so my question now is to Sam, following from that, what sort of structures, other than that fund, do you think the industry can put in place to, and you work in this industry, so I know that you've been involved in one or two of initiatives as an organization. So what sort of initiatives, what sort of projects, what sort of things can the industry do, or organizations within the industry do to fulfill, if you'd allow me, a social responsibility obligation in Nigeria?
Thanks. All right, well, let me answer the broader question that you asked first, and then I'll come to that. So very briefly, you made an excellent point that social responsibility isn't only outward looking, it's also internal. But I think, I do tend to think external, but internally I think it's very important, and I think it's you know, along with that mantra of education, so to speak, I think that it still follows, right? Because you know, especially a lot of up-and-coming artists, celebrities, actors, etc. You know, notwithstanding the external perception, those youths that want to get into the industry, you know, come in and don't realize that not only their responsibilities, their obligation to their fan base or to the public at large, but also to themselves to run their organization like a business. You know, Omotola is the personification of, it's her, this is the brand, but there's a whole business behind, accountants, lawyers, etc. So when I talk about
structure, you mean?
A structure, right? Exactly. And when I talk about education, these are some of the things that I think are very critical, because for us as an industry, there's, you know, at best, if we become the biggest industry in the world, we can have how many? 1,000, you know, A-list celebrities? That's not feeding our country. You know, I'm sure that I'm very proud when I see a celebrity that's entertaining us. I love it, I enjoy it, I'm a fan. But, you know, in terms of uplifting our industry, our economy, you know, there's whole structures behind that are so critical, right? For every big celebrity out there, there's, you know, another 100, 200, 500 jobs that can be grown out of that person. So I think that structure, I think, is what a lot of the industry can first do. Because we can't tomorrow fix distribution or fix piracy. You know, Oga Tony I think just stepped out for a minute. You know, there's a lot of organizations and a lot of us working very hard on these things for the bigger picture of our industry. But I think it starts at home, right? I think it starts at home, paying our taxes, structuring your company properly, training your people, growing their skills, giving them, you know, the opportunity to grow their skill base. You know, again, these are the things that, as I said, as our industry grows and improves, the better we are at it, the more professional we are at it, the more we manage our money, the more our businesses thrive, the more we can do. You know, it's a simple answer, but to me, it's very, very critical. So for every you know, celebrity out there, for every business involved in it, I'm looking at celebrities left and right, you know, there's hundreds of jobs to be had, right? And really a base. So if all of us do that in the right way, that's how we really create value in our industry.
All right, thank you very much. Can we put our hands together to all our panelists? So in wrapping, I'll just summarize. We've all agreed, and please just shake your head if you don't agree. We've all agreed that every individual, especially everybody who plays a key role, whether celebrity or creative industry professional, does have an obligation, first and foremost, to be professional. That's where you ended up. Fantastic. And this professionalism is what will drive a more profitable, a more productive industry that will in turn add much more to the economy of the country. And to borrow Yemi's words as well, we cannot say that we want to be comfortable citizens, we want a change in governance if we are not ready to, as well, rise up to our civic or citizen responsibility, which is key and would affect the kinds of lives that you would live and your children will live. And according to our lead speaker as well, she did make it very clear that there are a few things that must be important. She harped on professionalism, human rights, and labor, and then she mentioned leadership. So leadership is be bold to align with who you want to align, be bold to do what you want to do, but ensure that at the end of the day, it's what reflects who you are, you're true to yourself, most importantly, and is what impacts positively on the next person. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Emilia, don't be too fast, because they have questions for you. So just calm down. So very quickly, we'll take questions. Okay, that's one. Please, your hands up. Oh, Uncle Dollar, Sadola. Okay, 2. Lady 3. Okay, Mr. Courage 4. The gentleman here 5. Anyone from the back? 5. Okay, those 5 hands, and then we'll go to the very, very.
All right, so I'm sorry. When Tia was standing in front of me, I thought we had scrapped the Q&A.
No.
We're rushing out. So
Okay, so who goes first? Tosin.
So please, can you very quickly introduce yourself, tell us your name, what you do, and who your question is directed to. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tosin Martins. My question is not directed to any particular person, and whoever feels led can, as they say, can answer the question. Internationally, the discourse is beginning to go from corporate social responsibility to corporate social investment. And what that purports essentially is that those who get involved with corporate social responsibility must be incentivized in some form. So for example, the corporates in the greater America and the more developed parts of the world would get tax rebates. So now you possibly cannot necessarily interpret that in terms of tax rebate for everybody. So say, for example, as an artist, if I decide to be involved in X number of projects in a year, how does that come into either tax rebates or into some form of privileges, honors, access that I'm given so that my work can go faster, and I'm encouraged to continue to do that? That's important. Secondly, for the corporates, how do we measure in terms of partnership for those of us who are in the arts, whether it's music or it's movies? How do we begin to measure on an annual basis the level of investment and involvement? So for example, what percentage of an artist's work in a year goes to CSR, and what comes on the back end of that? For corporates, how much of your declaration of your, profit in a year goes to CSR, and what comes on the back of that? And let's measure it together, because of course we have the issue of corporates not declaring honestly. But while we leave that on the back end to be found out by those who know, for those of us, whatever you declare to us, how much of that goes to corporate social responsibility in the light of partnering with entertainment? Okay. Thank you.
Anybody wants to take that?
Okay, Uncle Dollar will be in a good position since Praise was able to raise some money for charity through MTN.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. Standing on all existing protocol, I'd like to thank the inventors of Nigerian Entertainment Conference. I think it's a fantastic, noble cause. I'd also like to thank all of us and just encourage us that ask what not Nigeria can do for us, but what we can do for Nigeria. And we are solely and wholly responsible for what happens to this great nation of ours. Standing on CSI, CSR, it's not particularly easy for a conglomerate like ours. My name is Dola Bangboye, Events and Sponsorship Manager, MTN. There's a lot of things you have to do for CSI, CSR. If you go into a state, for example, you have to seek the permission of the governor of the state. You have to seek permission from the community leaders. You have to seek all sorts of permissions that sometimes you have to pay to put boreholes. You have to pay to bring dialysis machines. You have to pay to do whatever you have to do. And until such a time when we mature as a nation to CSI, CSR, then it's sometimes an exercise in futility, because you are going to, with the best of intention in your mind's eye, you're going to a community to help, and sometimes your citizenry get killed. And probably this is not even supposed to come out in the annals of the day or the journals. But we need to be aware, we need to be conscious that this nation, we either make it, it's what we make or mar of it. And at the moment, the entertainment industry is one of the biggest earners for this society. So we need to use our voices collectively and singularly. We need to get up and ensure that we make this nation a better place for you and I. Thank you.
Are we taking all the questions? Or
Yeah, we're taking all the questions. Yeah, who's the person here? Mr. Koriji.
Yeah, that's why I asked him, and he said at the end. That's why I asked.
You know, I just want to say, especially for all the young people here, that if they take anything away from this conference, it's the fact that we can do things. Because I keep hearing that we can't do this, we can't do that. Anywhere Nigerians gather, all I hear is what we cannot do. And that makes me extremely sad. We can do quite a lot of things. And the other thing I hear, almost anywhere we gather, is what government should do, what government cannot do, how government has failed us. I think we should start thinking about the things that we can do ourselves without government. When it comes to social responsibility, you know, somebody used a very good word here, social investment. I don't think it's that which we give to other people. I believe it's that which we do for ourselves. Because if we, you know, a couple of young men who have talent, who just need a little money to make life better, and they don't get it, they become the armed robbers tomorrow that make life difficult for us. You know? Meanwhile, if we had invested in them, life would have been better for us. I hope we think in this direction. Emilia, when you were talking about Kusun and what we've done, I just found out that every day somebody's calling me to say, look, this artist is sick. There's no money to take care of him. You know, that artist is dead. There's no money to bury him. This artist has this problem. And I said, why do we have such a situation when we can collectively put together a means to make this easier for everyone? Which is why when we are having a discussion, somebody was asking a question, why do we have general distribution? We have general distribution that goes to everybody because we are responsible to each other. And we must be responsible to each other. We must do things beyond our little comfort zone for everybody. And when it's for everybody, it's really for ourselves. Recently, we got involved in the cancer thing because if you don't know, 1 out of every 3 of us is susceptible to having cancer. So it's really, when we worry about cancer, it's not about the other person. It could be anybody here. And we take these things seriously because we have to be responsible, not because of the other person, but because of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Hi, I have to make it very quick. Mine is not a question, but more of an appeal. I work with children. I'm all about social change. And I've been looking for people to work with me. I work with people 17 and under. I use the creative arts, film, comic books, you name it, to reach our children, to tell them they're responsible for this country and not just for themselves. I'm looking for mentors. I'm looking for people willing to donate their time, willing to donate their talent, willing to donate whatever, because my children need it. I need to get to the north, not just here, but we started out here. We've been doing it for 3 solid years. We're fainting, but we're not gone yet. We do need all the support we can get. In terms of in investment, this is just what I'll say. Your investment may not show up now, but in the long run, when that child becomes president or whatever, that's your investment paying off because you donated or you invested your time. And the last thing I will say is this. Whatever you do for yourself, when you die, goes with you. Whatever you do for others, that's what remains. That's what we keep celebrating, and that's what keeps us going. Thank you.
All right. Very quickly, we had more comments than questions, so does anybody want to react? Yes, to the CSR, CSI, of which I also have something to say.
I thought Tosin's question was not totally answered. In my own little knowledge of CSR, I do know that, for example, in India, and I think they were the first country that actually went ahead to make it a law that 2% of every company's, not income actually, it's profit, yeah, should go back to CSR. I know that the United States have not even put a law down concerning this. There is nothing stopping Nigeria, I think, from also following in the footsteps of India. I know also that American celebrities actually get tax reductions or tax payments or the sorts for every social responsibility that they actually take part in. So every time you see Angelina Jolie flying around the world, she might love the children and all of that stuff, but she's actually getting tax reductions for everything she's doing. When Omotola is flying around the world, I don't get tax reduction. So I've oftentimes told UNICEF and UNESCO and the rest of them, the UN, that when you see Africans actually who put their passion and their heart into what they're doing, we are the real ones who care. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Please, a round of applause for the panelists. We'll just take group photographs.
Yes, just before the photographs, I wanted to respond to what Tosin, because I don't still think that his question has been answered. And for the benefit of those who might have something to learn, in Nigeria, you actually can get a rebate on your taxes if you file properly and you can justify. You can, unless it has changed overnight, but I know that you can. But what I also wanted to add to the CSI is corporate social investment is just an aspect of CSR. And because of time, I can't go into it, but CSR in itself is a business strategy that gives you return on investment, not necessarily in Naira and Kobo. Yes, Nigeria is corrupt. Before you put a dialysis machine, you have to pay, you have to do all of that. But there are ways to go around this. We are advocating that CSR is regulated, because when you go into legislation, it will be killed like the bill Senator Chukwumerije proposed. But if it's regulated to say you cannot wake up one morning as an organization and do this and walk away, you can't start an illegal foundation as a celebrity, raise funds, and not every year give account of how much you earned and how much you spent. That's fraud. So what we are advocating is regulation. There must be standards. People cannot wake up and set up NGOs and not report. Go to Leap Africa Faith Foundation. Structured NGOs must publish their annual reports. Anything outside of that is illegal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.